Hello everyone, this is my first Q&A video for 4D Miner, the 4-dimensional survival sandbox game. If you haven't already seen my previous video that explains 4D Miner in detail, I highly recommend you watch that first, since this is a follow-up video that primarily serves to answer questions and provide development updates. I will start by answering questions from my YouTube comments, the 4D Miner Discord, and Reddit. The first question is, do you plan to take the concept further? This comment is probably from someone who didn't completely finish my last video, but in all fairness, I only mentioned my future plans near the end of the video, and most people don't even watch past the 1 minute mark, so I decided this would be a good starter question. The answer is yes, I do plan on taking the concept of this game much further. The biggest thing will be multiplayer. But, in addition to this, I plan on adding more game mechanics that improve navigation through the 4-dimensional world, and I will hopefully be able to continually add more content to the game for the foreseeable future. I will explain some of these new features in more detail as I go over more of the community questions. What drugs did you take to make this? Well, caffeine is technically a drug, so I guess there's that. This isn't a question, but rather someone who thought the 4th dimension in 4D Miner is time. This is a common misconception. If you count time as a dimension, then 4D Miner is a 5D game, and Minecraft is a 4D game. Are you going to create a device that can do 4D translation, or align yourself perpendicular to the other 3 axes? So, the first feature, 4D translation, is something that's currently being worked on. Many people in the Discord server have mentioned that they want strafing to be added to the game. This basically means you will be able to move your 3D slice of the world without rotating it. What's really amazing is that this feature has already been modded in by somebody on our Discord server. I'm actually really impressed that they were able to get this to work. You'll see later in this video that the same person has messed with the game in other very interesting ways. For strafing to be fully implemented, the movement in the game will have to be partially overhauled so I can prevent things like the player falling in lava while strafing. The second part of your question, which is the ability for players to align themselves perpendicular to different axes, has actually been partially added since my last video was released. Due to popular request, I added 3 keyboard shortcuts: Ctrl-X-Z, Ctrl-X-W, and Ctrl-ZW. These shortcuts align the player to the corresponding 3D slices of the world, also known as hyperplanes. I haven't decided if I will make in-game items to control these features, but for now, they will just be built-in controls. Hello there, when multiplayer is implemented, how will you be able to find your friends, like if they're off in the 4th dimension? You will probably be able to see your friends with the help of 4D glasses. I might add an item to the game that allows players to remain invisible to other players with 4D glasses. I also want to add an item to help players align their hyperplanes with one another. It would be a placeable item that will be aligned with a player's hyperplane when placed. Other players could then click or right-click on the placed item to align themselves with it. I've received several questions about these random pillars that appear in the game. I don't know the exact cause of them, but it appears to be a bug in the noise generation, which is what's used to build the 4D terrain. I decided to leave the pillars in for now, because I don't know how to fix them yet, and they make the world look more interesting anyway. It's basically another one of those, it's not a bug, it's a feature scenarios. This person was asking about seeds in the game, and sadly, I have not implemented seeds yet. Right now, all of the worlds generate in the exact same way, but I will definitely change this in the future. This is a question about my future plans for multiplayer in the game. When I do add multiplayer, I plan on making the player models 3D because the premise of the game is that you're a 3D being trapped in a 4D world. There's a twist to this though, since players will be able to see each other even if they do not exist in the same 3D slice of the world. For example, 2 players could be in perpendicular slices, which would mean if one player is standing at the intersection between these two slices, the other player will be able to see them. Since they are not aligned to the same 3D slice of the world, the second player will be able to see inside of the first player. This means I will have to make 3D models for their organs and bones to make things look more interesting. If you had to guess or estimate the performance of future versions, what would you expect it to be compared to the current demo version? It's not really possible to predict how performance will change as new features are added, along with performance optimizations. The simple answer is that I want to improve the graphics, but overall I want the performance to improve, or at least not get noticeably worse. Some of the newer features will probably be toggleable to avoid forcing worse performance on players. Will you add official mod support? I haven't fully decided on this because the game is still in its early stages, but I do plan on releasing the source code in some capacity after the game is fully released, which would probably be a huge deal for the modding scene. I've also thought of adding support for some kind of scripting language, which would allow the game to be altered in many ways. Are there plans for making some final boss, or other completion objective? I do want to add bosses to the game at some point, but I'm not sure about a final boss. One idea I've had is to go along with the theme of my YouTube video, where you're a 3D being who gets kidnapped by a 4D being. Maybe the final objective of the game could be to defeat the 4D being and return to your 3D world. Would community shaders become a thing? It's not out of the question. Right now, you can easily modify the shader files in the shader folder. But I might add a dedicated folder for community shader packs sometime in the future. Will there be redstone later on? Would allow really compact computers. Some kind of circuitry might be added in the future, but it will probably be limited to one chunk per circuit due to some of the game's technical limitations. 4D chunks contain a ton of blocks though, so that will still allow for a lot of freedom. What is going to be the main focus of the game? Exploration/adventuring, survival mechanics, construction, combat, or something else? For instance, I noticed that Minecraft shifted from pure construction to survival to exploration focus over the years. I don't really want to restrict the game to one specific focus. I think gameplay in 4 Dimensions is a mostly untapped goldmine with endless possibilities for exploration, survival, building, fighting, etc. That being said, leading up to the game's initial release, I want to focus on multiplayer features. This will probably include features like PvP, but I mainly want to work on adding ways for players to help each other to explore and build in their 4-dimensional worlds. That's all of the questions for this video, but there's a lot more info on the wiki and on my previous video. You can also ask questions in the Discord server or the subreddit. I will put links to all of those places in the description. Now I want to show off some cool stuff people in the community have done. The same person who created the strafing mod also reverse engineered the world's save format to generate custom objects and load them into the game. Several cool creations, such as tesseracts, hyperspheres, and climb bottles have been modeled out of 4D blocks using this technique, which I honestly think is amazing. There have also been some weird things made by the community. As far as the development of 4D Miner goes, I've only made a few minor changes since I released my last video, mostly because I've been busy publishing info on this game and answering people's questions. I fixed a major bug that caused most of the crashes that were happening when people tried to open the game. I also added some features, such as the keyboard shortcuts to adjust your hyperplane, and a way to rotate the compass by moving the mouse wheel while holding down on the right mouse button. That's all for now. As stated earlier, I will provide a bunch of useful links in the description. I will also link the Kickstarter if anyone wants to help get this game off the ground.